Welcome back, guys. So in our earlier video we have talked about wall sender and wall receiver processes, okay, of for streaming application. Now we are going to talk about few parameters which are required to set up the streaming application. So one is wall level. We have already talked about it and we'll be discussing this in detail in our next videos. So this wall level should be replica. Okay, the default value is replica. We can change it to logical and uh, some other. We'll be discussing this in detail in our next videos. Okay, so this should be replica for our streaming application. Next is wall log hints. This writes full pages to wall when first modified after a checkpoint. Okay, even for a non-critical modification. So all right, full data pages to the wall write ahead logs when they are first modified. When this parameter is on, the PostgreSQL server writes the entire content of each disk page to the wall. Okay, each disk page to the wall during the first modification of that page. If that page is modified first time, then it writes the whole page to the wall after a checkpoint. Even for a non-critical modification or so-called hint bits. Okay, so that's why it is called log wall log hints. Okay, so only on the first modification when the next modification was done on the same disk page, then only the modified content will be copied to the wall. But when the first modification on the disk page was done, then it will copy the whole disk page. Okay, this is wall log hints. This is the parameter. The next is max wall senders. This is very much important uh, parameter. The value of it is an integer. This parameter specifies the maximum number of concurrent connections from standby servers or streaming based backup clients. If the default value is 10, okay, if you want to stop replication we can set that to 0. Okay, so that no wall sender process will work. Okay, which means no wall sender process running. Okay, we can change it to 15, 20 as well. Like we want so much 20 wall senders will work with the updating of sending the wall log segments to the standby servers. We can change it based on our requirement. But if we set that to 0, no our application won't work. The another one is wall keep segments. Okay, so this parameter specifies the maximum number of past log files kept in the pg wall directory. Okay, I told you already that on the master server all the changes or updates gets updated in wall segments and they have in wall directory. So the wall sender sends these wall files to the wall updates. All the changes in the wall updates as they are getting copied to the uh, wall segments or wall files. They gets copied to the wall sender sends them to the receiver. But how many wall segments should be kept, that will decide by these wall keep segments. If a standby server falls behind the master server by value more than a defined value, okay, like 15 seconds, 20 seconds, or 10. If we decide wall keep segments 10, then if the wall files, if the standby server falls behind 10, then the replication get terminated. Okay, and so as required by the wall file will be removed by the sending server as the required by wall as the required wall file will be removed by the sending server. Okay, so if we set this parameter low, like if we set this parameter 5 and the standby server has falls behind due to connectivity or some other process, a long running process at the standby server, and it falls behind 6, 7, 10. After 10 segments, after 5 segments, the connection with the master and standby server will be terminated. So that standby server will get stopped because the wall, it falls behind the value of wall keep segment. So we need to think about this value and s- configure it very with our with the need of our process, and how we need to see how our process, how our master applications are working in our daily life. We can change this parameter afterwards as well, but this requires restart. Maybe you can check if this requires restart or not. We'll see that in the lab when we are checking the PostgreSQL.conf file. Okay, another parameter is hot standby. Okay, this is out of the three main parameters which we need to set up on the master server. Okay, but it refers to a standby server that is actively applying the wall ahead logs changes from a primary server and allowing it to remain up to date and ready to take over as the primary server in case of a primary server failure. So hot standby is a feature of streaming application in the PostgreSQL. This parameter enables the read-only connection on the node when it is in the standby mode, but it is ignored when it is running in the master. Okay, so if we promote our standby to master, this parameter is ignored. But if that is running as a standby server, this parameter is important, and it ensures that standby server runs in the read-only mode. So this is how you can do that in the failover. When you have this primary, this in case of failover, you switch your standby server to the primary server. Okay, and then it accepts read write both the connection. But earlier it accepts only read only connection and the write connections on the primary server, and on the standby server it accepts read only connection. Okay, but in case of failover, this was stopped, or primary server was stopped. Can be stopped in case of failover. So we switch primary server, we switch our primary servers to the standby server. Okay, we promote our standby server to the master server. We can call that as well. Okay, so all the read write operations gets moved to standby server. Okay, and this is all about the failover and the read-only load balancing. So there are three parameters we'll be talking about in our next video. Other parameters for streaming replication. Okay. So thank you, and I'll be seeing you in the next video.